Hi, this is John Reed, JohnnyRP.com. The last time I did a video shoot, I tried this video and it sucked basically, so I wasn't able to release it. So now I have a different tie, different outfit, hoping for a better result. And what I wanted to talk about was basically some of the questions that are coming in around the keys to SAP career success. I get a lot of these questions, LinkedIn, on my website as well. And there's a couple of misconceptions about the SAP job market, I think, that drive a lot of the challenges or obstacles people run into. And I write about a lot of these on my website, but sometimes it's fun to try to incorporate a bit of this into a video. And when we think about breaking into SAP or advancing in the field, a lot of times we're talking about what does it take to become a full-fledged implementation consultant. And many times the biggest area of confusion is that you can really only make one job change at a time in the SAP market. And the experienced SAP consultant has really compiled several key skills, and I think sometimes it's helpful to separate out the SAP side of the skills and the consulting side. Now, why would I say that? Because it's often very difficult to acquire both those components together. That wasn't always the case, of course. In the mid-90s, it was fairly easy to go get certified, get on a project as a junior consultant, get your training hands-on while you're getting paid. It was a pretty good deal. That's really hard to find now. And so when you talk about moving into SAP, you have to look at what you're bringing to the table before you make the move. So what I want to talk about in this video is how you might do that, and I might link to another video when I post this from Jim Stewart of SAPcookbook.com, who talks a lot about breaking into SAP. But from my angle, what I wanted to talk about was the consulting side of the equation is a cohesive set of skills that we think of as soft skills. But the soft skills are actually pretty instrumental in what it takes to succeed in SAP, and they involve everything from project methodologies to, like ASAP, for example, with the BPM enhancements, to change management, cultural change management, sophisticated knowledge of learning solutions and e-learning options, end-user empowerment and competency, full life cycle implementations. It's more than just soft skills, or shall we say that phrase doesn't really capture the meat of that piece of skill set. So the other thing that a consultant really acquires is they acquire experience on multiple projects. And that becomes important as well, because when you have experience on multiple projects, especially if you have some continuity with your industry focus, then you've really acquired a broad understanding of how SAP solves problems for different businesses, as opposed to simply having one business's view of how that's done. And that's really how a consultant elevates themselves from simply an end user. So if you're thinking about being a successful SAP professional, you have to think about that consulting skill set. And even if you don't really want to travel, and even if you don't really plan on being a consultant, but you want to just stay within the end user world as an employee, you still have to think about being a consultant, because I think the best end user employees in the SAP world are almost functioning as internal consultants, solving problems on their projects, being that glue person, that go-to person that people look to when they have issues. And so I think these skills are worth paying attention to regardless of whether you want to hit the road or not. So think about it that way. So, okay, so you might have 3 years of SAP experience, but you've worked solely for a user, one user. You've never been a consultant. You've never worked on different projects. Well, that's not going to be enough to allow you to become a full-fledged consultant. If, however, you have full life cycle implementation experience, including for functional folks that configuration skill, which is still a really important piece of the equation, then maybe a consulting firm might take you on after a few years of that. But if they do, they have to think about you as someone they need to train into a consultant. You can jumpstart that process by trying to acquire some of those skills, but they're taking what they consider a bit of a chance on you because they're not sure if they can bill you out right away. So when you think of it that way, you start to understand why these transitions take more time. And when someone wants to break into SAP, like when I hear from a sales manager, or I hear from CRM people who have worked on a CRM product. If they don't have consulting experience, then they really are looking at acquiring two skill sets: consulting skills and SAP skills. And it's not very easy to acquire both of them at once. In many cases, you kind of have to start with the SAP side, taking a full-time job with an SAP implementation. Or if you do have some consulting experience, you might get hired by a consulting firm that does more SAP, but start with more broad enterprise or technical consulting in a related area. But that helps you to think about how you might want to combine those skills and develop that expertise that would allow you to really be a full-fledged SAP professional. And I think where people get confused is they think they can just jump in and they think it's just one job change, but it's actually more than one. You go from an Oracle database administrator, we hear from folks like that sometimes. Well, they're not consultants, nor are they really experienced with SAP implementation. So they really have two major shifts ahead of them before they can really be successful in SAP. So I hope this discussion has helped to conceptualize how you tie these two pieces together into one. And definitely find me on johnnyerp.com or johnnyerp on Twitter if you have further questions about this, and over time I'll add to this library of how-to videos, and hopefully in the end a clearer picture of SAP consulting success will emerge. This is John Reed of johnnyerp.com.